Of the SNP front-runners, Humza Yousaf still looks the most likely candidate to win the race. And Kate Forbes, who came in yesterday, she has a background in Cambridge, and on the face of it, she looks a very credible candidate. But she's opposed to same-sex marriage. She's opposed to the transgender bill. She is part of the Free Church of Scotland. Now, of course, her religious views are her own, but they do seem to impinge on her decision-making. And Richard Lochhead, who's an MSP, says very clearly that they can't have a party leader who voted against, or who would vote against, same-sex marriage. And she would. She makes it quite clear. Why? Because of her religious beliefs. So the Free Church of Scotland is different to the main Church of Scotland, sometimes called the Wee Frees, and it's hardly surprising that somebody who belongs to that church would fall foul of opposition to gay marriage. Humza Yousaf says that despite this, he would still have her in a cabinet if he were the First Minister because of her intelligence. Absolutely. She has degrees both in Cambridge and in Edinburgh. She taught herself Gaelic. But it's the free church movement is steeped in a limited and prejudiced interpretation of Scripture, and it calls some more liberal views, a false zeal to appear virtuous subversion of biblical morality. It appeals to the Westminster Larger Catechism, which prescribes adultery and includes in that prescription the prohibition of sodomy and unnatural lusts. And this really is it gets to the heart of the issue. It then goes on to it lists 7 biblical texts that prohibit homosexuality. I would only count 6, and I would urge you to look at my own video on this debate, because the Free Church presents as fact issues of interpretation that are still the subject of serious debate. It's one thing to follow the authority of a pope or to follow the authority of tradition, but to appeal to the authority of biblical texts is very shaky when they are still uncertain, and when their meaning, their intended meaning, is still shaky. So the attitude of the Free Church goes beyond and in contrast, for example, to the strict Catholic prohibition, to say that on the basis of Matthew 5:28, the homosexual orientation is as sinful as the act. That is fairly shocking. And I think on the basis of that, I would be deeply shocked should somebody who subscribes to that view be elected as First Minister in Scotland. I'm fully aware that Humza is a devout Muslim, and in fact will be finishing this campaign during Ramadan, when he will be fasting. But he draws a clear distinction between his own personal religious beliefs and the principles of democracy and the leadership of a country that has liberal laws and ideas of freedom. These are not ideas which are encapsulated in the principles of the Free Church of Scotland, as far as I can see. I'd be very grateful if somebody could actually tell me I'm wrong and point to a more positive interpretation. But I remember coming across the Free Church when I was in Scotland many, many years ago, and coming across the arrangement which made it impossible to kneel down in a church. But I really haven't given it that much thought since then, since those days. And looking into it today, I was a little shocked. I was a little shocked. Anyway, as I say, I'd be very interested in your views on this subject.